So today we're going to learn CLO. CLO is a patterning program with a 3D garment simulator built into it. It's really, really handy. So on one side, we have the 3D garment, and on the other side, we have the 2D pattern. And you can manipulate the 2D pattern and pretty much instantly see the results on the garment. So it's a really, really satisfying program to work with. Just a little bit about the layout of it. We have all kinds of panels here, and we can adjust these panels in very much like a Photoshop and Illustrator like way, right? We can make them thicker or thinner, and we can get into my history. So like if I want to undo anything, I can pop this out and I can see these are all of the things that I've done. We can close anything that we've opened from over here by clicking on these little panels. We can even do that with the library, although I normally keep the library out. There are other options for ways to work in CLO. So if I go into the upper right hand corner, I can switch it to an animation mode. And I can switch it again to modular mode, which we'll probably talk about eventually, print layout mode. There's all kinds of different options, but we normally work in simulation mode when we're pattern designing anyway. Yeah, so I am going to actually reset this. So I'm going to go and delete my avatar, delete avatar, and I'm going to go to File, New, because we're going to start off with a simpler pattern than this. This was a pattern that I made from my collection last year. And I just brought it in as something interesting to start off with. But we, it's not letting me delete the avatar. That's so annoying. There we go. So we are now going to start fresh. So this is what, oops. This is what it would look like when you first logged in. I'm actually going to put myself over here. And we, you probably would only have these two Zpacks. So some important moments in your library of files that automatically come with CLO. Some of the important things are already bookmarked up here. There are other files in the library that we will explore, but for right now, we're just going to look at probably garments and avatar today. So if we double click on garments, it'll open up this, and we can then double click on the female Zpack. And when we double click on a Zpack from here, it tries to open up the whole file. And you can see up here at the top, the file name is now called female t-shirt Zpack. A Zpack is a little bit different than a traditional project, right? We can go to File, Save As Project, or we can go to File, Save As Garment, and it's the garment that's named the Zpack, and that's where you can save them into this file, and they would be accessible for anyone or for yourself later on. And we will try saving a garment and saving a file or saving a project to kind of show you the difference. But saving it as a project will save like the avatar in there and everything else too. Speaking of which, let's get the avatar in here. And we're going to go to female V1. And I'm going to double click on this and she will automatically be added. And there's lots of things you can change about the avatar, the size, the shoes, the pose, but we're going to leave her standard for right now. And what I can do is hit simulates just to show you what this t-shirt will look like at the end. And then we're going to actually recreate the process. I'm really just using it to get pattern pieces here. Beautiful. So there they are, and that's the simulate button. So I am right mouse clicking to rotate, center mouse click to click and drag your viewpoint, and right mouse click during simulations. The right mouse click is automatically set to be this tool for me, the select/move tool. And what this does is it allows us to pull on the garments, and you can go crazy and pull really hard, but you can also just pull gently. So if things aren't fitting quite right, that's like the version of like taking a hand and, you know, adjusting the fit, or just adjusting how it's sitting on the body. So that's the simulate move tool and the hand tool in 3D. I'm going to stop the simulation and show you that the hand tool disappears when the simulation is not running. And you can just move around pieces in 3D. This allows you to move along the cardinal dimensions, but I don't frequently use this tool. Mostly it's just if things like aren't aligning properly, you can kind of reset them using this tool. So I'm just going to hit Control Z and undo that. And then we're going to skip over some tools, and we are going to focus on the Reset 3D Arrangement tool, or the Reset 2D Arrangement tool. So the Reset 3D Arrangement tool will kind of unsew it, and it will put it back to this standard wrap. I wonder what it's doing. Is that going to work the way I thought it would? There we go. Reset 3D Arrangement tool. I think I might have clicked the wrong button. If you hover over any of these buttons, they work just this way. They show you what their name is what I'm saying. So the Reset 3D Arrangement tool sends it back to this dimensional arrangement where the garments are kind of placed on the body. But I'm actually going to take it a step further back, and I will go to Reset 2D Arrangement. So if you were to bring a pattern in from another program, or if you were to draft a pattern from scratch or draft an item from scratch, it would show up completely flat and not associated with the body yet at all. And I'm going to actually delete all of my sewing lines. But I will just turn them off for right now. Hold on 1 second. So on the left, we have all of these view options, and there's a lot of view management in CLO. So turning things on and off when you don't need them and that kind of thing. And where it says 3D garment display, I am going to go over to show threads and turn that off. And those were just all the sew lines that were visible, and they were just feeling a little overwhelming, so we shut them off for now. Beautiful. And now we are going to put the garment back into its 3D arrangement by turning on these arrangement points. So these arrangement points are set onto cylinders that make up different volumes of the body that the clothing can then get wrapped around before it's sewn. So this is like just a way to make sure that things are getting put on the right part of the body when they're getting simulated and when they're getting sewn. So I'm going to shut off show bounding volumes, and we're just going to focus on these dots, which are related to the bounding volumes, but we don't need to see all of them at the same time. And now with any item selected, I am going to choose one of the arrangement points. So that one looks a little high, so I'm going to try to choose one down a little lower. All right, let's do the back. And then I'll come back and lower the front. Beautiful. And we can do the same for the sleeves. We're going to put those right on the arms. And you'll notice that both the sleeves went on at the same time, and that's because it's a symmetrical pattern. And we will talk about how to make symmetrical patterns in the future. Okay, so now we've kind of got her collar in place. And we are going to shut off those arrangement points. We can turn them back on later if we need to. So I still have all of my sew lines here, but I want to redo them for you. So give me 1 second to delete them. Oh, it looks like this was actually the front and the back of the collar, or sorry, the left and the right of the front collar and not the front and the back of the collar. So let me redo these a little bit. We're going to place that one there instead. And this one goes on the back of the neck. Great. So give me 1 second to delete all of these sew lines. All I'm doing to delete them is choosing the edit sewing tool, which is available in the 3D tools, and it's available in the 2D tools. So the edit sewing tool, right clicking and choosing delete. So let me do that for all of them. Give me 1 second. So they're all deleted, and I'm just going to show you how quickly this sewing can go, especially when we've made symmetrical patterns like this. We can sew just one side at a time, and it will work. So the thing that's important to remember when you're sewing is to make sure, or when you're using this segment sewing tool, at least, to make sure that the start of the sewing line is on the same on both sides. So if we are sewing right now. I'll rearrange these for a second. We are sewing this side to this side, and I'm using the segment sewing tool to do this. And what I need to do is make sure that this cross is on the top for both of these, just like that. And when we look at the 3D version, where you want things to be sewn, there should never be any crossing lines or anything like that, because that means things will get twisted. And we'll even sew, we'll sew this bottom one in the wrong direction, so you'll be able to see how twisted it gets. Right, so that's what it looks like most of the time when we see something like this, especially in the 3D version. Sometimes in the 2D version, things can cross and it will be correct. But in the 3D version, you generally just want to see parallel lines, but we'll leave that mistake to see what it looks like in the 3D version. And I'm just going to keep clicking on the segments that should be attached. And that's actually the whole shirt. Again, I'm center clicking with my mouse in order to drag the view around. Beautiful. So that's all sewn, except for the collar. I'll do this. And then this. And the back of the collar. And this is where things can get kind of confusing. So right now I'm actually just going to sew the back of the collar to the back of the shirt, and then I'll sew the collar together in a second. So I'm going to hit simulate, and I know that the sleeves aren't attached right now, but we're going to see how they do anyway. So hit simulate. It sews all together, and we can see it stops simulating so the sleeves don't fall any farther. We can see that this front of the shirt is all messed up because we sewed these lines backwards. This cross is on the bottom and this cross is on the top. So I'm going to go to Edit Sewing, the Edit Sewing tool, and choose Delete Sewing, and then I will sew again. And we will hit Simulate again, and it should fix that pretty quickly. Yeah. Okay, so for the sleeves, they're falling down and they're way out of place now. So I am going to, with one of the selection tools, right click on the shape and choose Reset 3D Arrangement. And this puts them back where we told them to be when we were using those arrangement points, those blue arrangement points. Right click, Reset 3D Arrangement. And now we're going to use the free sewing tool instead of the segment sewing tool. So you can use any of the sewing tools. They're available in both the 3D side and the 2D side. And the main difference is that with the segment sewing tool, you can only sew a whole segment onto a whole segment. You can't even do like more than one segment at a time. You just have to do one segment to one segment. With the free sewing tool though, we can sew more freely. Of course, that's what it's named. But like over here, we can just click from one end to the other on the sleeve. And that's instead of having to click each individual segment on the sleeve. And then what's kind of, you can't necessarily choose like the correct seam in the 2D world over here. Like technically this sleeve has to be sewn like around the sleeve socket, and I can't properly do that because they aren't connected in the 2D world. But in the 3D world, since they are connected, we can click a starting point. Actually, I can tell this is the wrong sleeve because CLO highlights the seam that's being worked on. So this sleeve is the same red as this over here. So that's the one I'm looking for. And actually, this is the seam that we need to work on. So CLO is great because you can, I needed to restart that. I messed it up. But here we'll slide all the way down this, and you can see it happening in the 3D world as I do it in the 2D world. And then right here, this is the front bodice. I'm going to click on the armpit in the 2D side, and you can see as I run along the armpit in the 2D side, it's highlighting that same seam in the 3D side. We can actually, even though I clicked in the 2D side, we can start running along the seam in the 3D side. And I thought I would be able to go over that seam, and I'm surprised and annoyed that I cannot. I really feel like I've done it before. Let me try one more time, and then we will sew it just half to half. That's not the end of the world. Start there. Oh, I see. It's double click to complete. So we can start. We can just click and then continue the line further. All right, and double click to complete. And there it goes. It's thinking. And there it is. So this is actually all sewn except for, I don't think I've sewn the collar edges together. So I am going to grab the segment sewing tool for that, and I will click on a collar edge. I want to try to get the collar edge on this side. Click on a collar edge, and then I'm going to come in here and click on the other collar edge, essentially. Maybe I clicked on the same one twice. Collar edge, and then is this the right one? Or is this the right one? All right, this is the right one. It's nice to choose other lines that are near it to make sure to be able to see it, and then sew it. All right, so let's hit sew on these, or simulate. Beautiful. All right, let's talk about adapting the pattern a little bit. I know that might have been review for you. We are going to focus on the 2D side to adapt the pattern, but we will be able to see the changes pretty much instantly in here. But it's good practice to shut off simulation before you start changing the pattern, because I think it'll shut it off anyway. You have to hit simulate again after you've made these changes. So we are going to talk about these tools and also these two tools. So first off, the transform pattern tool is the letter A on your keyboard. So you can just hit A, and then you can click on an object and you can, scale it if that's something you need to do, although that's not normally something I do in pattern design, because size is so important. But you can scale it, and mostly I just move this for moving around the whole pattern piece compared to any of these tools, which are kind of like the white selection tool in Photoshop, which are for editing the individual anchor points. Before I get to those, though, I want to talk about the two different ways to draw in CLO. So I'm going to move over to the polygon tool, which is one of the drawing tools. And we will talk about drawing really quickly for a second. So this is like a way you would create a new bodice. And actually, I'll just move this out of the way and we'll draw a bodice. So you could draft whole new shapes in here using the polygon tool. And it works just like the pen tool in Illustrator, right? If you click and drag, you'll make a handle, which then affects the curve. And if you just click, you will make anchors, or you will just make anchor points, which will be just corners. Anchor points without handles are corners. Anchor points with handles are curves. You can click on handles you can click on anchor points to get rid of the handle coming out, and do one of these. But if you want something to be symmetrical, you should right click where you want there to be a point. So I'm actually going to Control Z and start again. So right here where I want there to be a point, I'm going to right click and check off mirror creation. And then we're going to change the axis type to Y axis, which mirrors it above or across the vertical plane. And then we can hit OK, and anything we draw will be symmetrical. Also, these are called Bezier curves, Bezier. It's French, so I have to practice it. Bezier curves. And that's this particular type of curve, but there's also another way to draw in CLO, which is using curve points, which works more like the curvature tool in Illustrator, if you're familiar with the curvature tool. So if you hold control while you're in the polygon tool, or the other drawing tool, which is the interior line tool, right next to the polygon tool. If you hold control while you're doing this, you're going to make control points. If you hold control, you're going to make curve points. And curve points don't involve handles, so are maybe a little bit simpler to understand for some people. And where I have a corner, I didn't have to draw out any handles or anything, and that is just going to be a curve, and it's going to be affected by the next curve point I place. Right? I think if we want it to be a corner, can we double click on it? No, I think we just have to make a release control and make a corner point there if we wanted to. So let's try drawing this with curve points instead of control point, instead of Bezier curves. So I'm holding control, and that's going to be a control point there. Didn't work, so I'll hold control again, and there will be a control point. And now I've released it, and there will just be normal anchor points here. And then I'm adding a control point for the inside of my sleeve, and I've released control, I've added a curve point there by holding control. And then I'm holding control, adding a curve point. All right. And then I'm going to right click and choose mirror. I did it at the end. You should really ideally do this towards the beginning, because I think I might end up with double anchor points here, because I have to click again to make it into a, yeah, see, it doesn't even like that I did that. But you get the idea. Right click, mirror creation, y-axis. You can hold control to make curve points, or you can click and drag out handles. Either one works. Is it going to make a closed shape? All right, beautiful. So let's talk about some of the other tools that we have, especially while it's loading. The edit pattern tool can only be used on Bezier curve or Bezier points. So when we click edit pattern, we will actually lose sight of the curve points that are here, and we won't be able to edit this curve the same way we can edit a Bezier curve by adjusting the handles and everything. The curve point curves will not look like that. We can edit them though, do not fear. We can edit them using the edit curve point tool, which is V. The edit pattern point tool is Z for all of your normal Bezier curves. Normal is relative, but that's what I'm more familiar with. And then the edit curve point tool is V. So you can kind of get familiar with those keyboard shortcuts. And here we have the, we can adjust the curve points there then. We can't convert a curve point back into an anchor, into a normal Bezier curve anchor point. We can't do that. We can't take this and turn it into one of these with handles. But we can take this, a Bezier curve point or a Bezier point, and turn it into a CLO curve point. So I'm going to right click and choose convert to curve points. And now we can see with the curve, with the edit curve point tool, that it's added actually a lot of these points, which is annoying because then if you want to adjust them, it's difficult. So what you can do instead is use the edit curvature tool. So if you've drawn something with minimal curve points, it's fine to use the edit curve point tool, but the edit curvature tool, it will only work on curves made with Bezier curves. Like it won't work over here on any of this, but on these curves, oh, it actually did. Okay, so it does work with these curves, but I think it might convert them to curve point curves. So that's something to be aware of, right? If we now turn on the edit curve point, oh no, it just adjusted that one. So that's a good option for both. But basically what I'm saying is the edit curvature point tool allows you to edit the whole curvature without dealing with each individual curve point. So if you just have to like adjust, if you just have to adjust a little bit, and it's the whole, if the segments are like unified into one line, that would work really well. So the transform point / segment tool is pretty interesting. If we choose a whole segment and scale it larger, that's basically what this tool allows you to do. It allows you to scale an individual segment larger or smaller, which can be handy. Something you want to keep in mind, though, is making sure that things fit up front, line up front to back, and making sure that like everything fits together. I'm going to undo a little bit of my history. Of course, it's not actually loading. We'll undo to this point. Maybe? Of course, this is what slows down my computer, simply accessing my history. There we go. So I'm going to undo to that point because I manipulated this pattern and I didn't really want to yet. But if we can just close this now and I think start working again from this point, and it's as if we undid to that point. If we did go and manipulate the front of the shirt and we made it longer or whatever, and I can actually include that point in there, and then I can just scale those anchor points. And interestingly, it did not scale the handles. If I did something like this, I would then want to make sure that the back of the shirt had the same sizes involved, right? Because they have to be sewn together, so the sizes have to line up and all of that jazz. So we need to make sure that they're exactly the same size, and we can do that using the property editor. So I haven't addressed any of the panels on this side yet. But if you click on them, you can see, actually, I've made a mistake. This isn't where you change this, but you can see the line length over here. And if you select more than one line, you can see their combined line length under the 3D line length section. I think that might be wrong, but we can go to edit pattern and click on a line length. We want this to be 4.97 inches long. We can click over here and right click on the matching line. Sorry, not 4.97, 15.497. I know that didn't seem right. 15.497. We're going to right click over here and choose change length to 15.497. So we can have it be exactly the same. And same thing over here. So we will just right click and change the length to 9.233. So that's the way to handle that. I think it's just thinking about that change. I also wanted to make the sides of this elastic. So I don't necessarily have to do this for both sides, but I can. I'm just going to, I just want this to be a t-shirt again with like gathered sides essentially. So I'm going to grab these two and come over to the property editor and check off elastic. And we are going to adjust the strength, which is just like how much does it shrink and how much does it elastic down, the percentage that it shrinks. And let's try hitting simulate with these elastic properties. And I will actually delete this. Oops. I'm using the wrong tool. And we'll hit simulate again. So it should shrink up the sides, and I can pull these up a little. Yeah, so the sides are a little rouged now. It doesn't, maybe it didn't quite work. We can, oh yeah, they're green. So it's, it is elastic. And, I think we've talked about most of the tools under here that I wanted to. Oh, add point. Okay, so add point will add a, it will add a segment point on a curve point, and it will add a Bezier point on a Bezier curve. So if we choose add points and we click on these, which are made with Bezier curves, it will add a Bezier curve to this. So if we adjust this, it would just be a regular Bezier curve with the handles. If we have something that we've drawn with curvature points, control to make curvature points. Beautiful. If we use the add point tool on something that's made of curve points, right, it will add something called a segment point. So it will split the line. Basically right now, if we use the edit curvature tool on it, which is segment dependent, it can't edit more than one segment at a time. We would move the whole segment around. Okay. And if we look at it with the edit segment, with the edit curve point tool, we will see that it's got probably a bunch of curve points on it. Yeah, so it added, well, it's still just got the 2 curve points, but sometimes it accidentally adds a lot more curve points. We can, if we choose add point / split line on here and we click in the middle, now these lines are 2 different segments and they can be selected separately. And the edit curvature tool will only edit one at a time of them. So there is a type of curve points. Remember, curve points are these points that are normally invisible that make up a curve if you've drawn them with curve points instead of Bezier points. We can see them by using the edit curve point tool. And you can see that when I split it, it did add a lot of curve points, but there's also called something called the segment point. And the segment point is a curve point. It's not a Bezier point. It won't ever have handles, but it allows you to adjust the whole line of curve points instead of just one curve point at a time. And it allows you to have separate segments in your curve points, in your curved sections. So hopefully that's making sense. Bezier points have handles like these. Handles affect the curve. Curve points don't have handles. They are the curve, and they affect each other when you adjust where the placement is. And the handles can move whole curves with like all of the curve points on them. And the segment points. These are segment points. They can move the whole curve. They can split up they can be added by splitting a line like this, or you can convert a segment point. You can convert a curve point into a segment point. So if I click on any of these curve points and right click, I can choose convert to segment points. And now this is like a separate segment. And you can see it added all kinds of curve points all the way around that. So these are just things to keep in mind what's happening when you're drawing. Really quick, if I drew something that I wanted to have a mirrored piece, like if I drew a sleeve, if this crazy shape were a sleeve and I wanted another sleeve that would be sewn symmetrically, instantaneously, and would be edited symmetrically, instantaneously. Whenever I edited one, I would edit the other instantly. We can choose symmetric pattern with sewing and place. And then whenever I edited one, I would edit the other at the same time, and they would all be sewn symmetrically. If I sewed one, I would sew the other, that kind of thing. So I'll just delete those. Yeah, we're looking pretty good here. I just have one more thing to address before I wrap up. And we're at about a half an hour, so that's good. And that is replacing curves. So if you were having trouble editing this, like you were like, oh, I just wish I could redraw this. We can do that. We can redraw, and we can then swap one line for another, and we don't have to redraw the whole shape. So I'm going to choose internal polygon / line, and I am going to draw a new sleeve cap, essentially. Like maybe we just wanted it like a little bit bigger, and we couldn't quite get it right by adjusting the handles. We can swap these lines. So to do so, we go to Edit Pattern, the Edit Pattern tools, and we are going to select all of the lines that we want to swap. So I'm dragging a box around them, but you can also select them all individually. And we are going to right click and choose Replace as Pattern Outline. And it's mad because they're intersecting, which I'm surprised at, but I can try to edit this so that it's not. I didn't think that would matter. I didn't actually know it was intersecting either, so hopefully that works for it. We should just be able to select the two lines that we're swapping, right click, and choose Replace Pattern Outline. Okay, let me try drawing an interior line, just in case I am, I don't know, messing something up somehow. I guess I can zoom in on the edges and make sure that one's not overlapping. That one's not overlapping, so I'm not sure what it's talking about, and that's frustrating because when I tried this for the lecture beforehand, this worked. So I'm going to grab the Edit Curvature tool and just give this a little arc. Come on. And then select There we go. We'll do an arc downwards, so it's definitely not intersecting. And since this is just an example, I'm then going to select all of these with the edit pattern tool and not the tool that I'm using. All right, and right click on the line that you want to now be the outside. Replace as pattern outline. Okay. I'm thrown, but not deterred. We will try it one more time. Draw an internal line. Select both. Right click, replace as pattern outline. There we go, that one worked. So I'm not sure why the sleeves are yelling at me, but this is another option. And I'm sorry that I'm getting that error message and that I don't know how to fix it. Maybe it's the fact that I'm choosing more than one segment over here, but I thought that I practiced that earlier. So I'm going to try one more time. I'll just select these. And this is with 2 segments. And then I'm going to right click on the segment that I want to be the outline and choose replace as pattern outline. Okay, so it's not that. So there's some other error happening here that is throwing me, which is too bad because when I practiced with the sleeves before class, even their little notches were transferred to the new outside edge. So let me know if you also run into trouble with that and if you figure out what is happening there. So those are all of the basics that I wanted to go over this week, just about editing your garments, just selecting segments, and editing, and kind of just a basic on sewing and all of that. So please let me know how this was. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm still new to teaching CLO, so this is an experiment for me. And I'm really hoping that it's successful for you guys. So I'll talk to you later. Bye! I forgot that I was going to save this and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go to File, Save As Project, and we can save this project. I would recommend saving it somewhere you can remember. I'm just going to call it Sample T, and you're going to hit Save. And when we open up this file again, it would look exactly like this. There would be an avatar in it and everything, and it would be perfect. Where if we want to add a if we want to save just the garments, and specifically if we want to add it to like your garment library, let's make sure it's simulated totally first. And then we are going to go to File, Save As Garment, and we are going to save it in this CLO Assets Garment folder. And you can see that it automatically saves the PNG of it, and that's how it gets this this look over here. And it also saves something called a Zpack. So a Zpack is not a project. I think the project file is called Zproject. But a Zpack is how you can save the garment. And if you save it in this folder on your computer, where it's automatically having me save a garment, we can call this long t-shirt. And we can hit save. And it should add it over here, or that might happen the next time we launch CLO. So I closed CLO and open it again, and you can see over here that I now do have a Zpack with my t-shirt. So I can do that. And if I wanted to, I could also add another garment that I've made right into here by right-clicking on any Zpack and choosing Add to the Workspace. And we just have to choose Add instead of Open. And it will also add that in. So that's a great way to get, clothes on your avatar really, really quickly, is if you start saving all of your garments as Zpacks. They can be easy for you to come back and figure out new uses for them or adapt them. So it would be a great place for your slopers or your blocks or things like that. So, all right, bye for real.